Everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Just excited to be here just to speak to you guys about this awesome anthology that's coming out. My chapter is called Loyal to Dysfunction. And I think, the title itself, it speaks for itself. I pretty much talk about my journey of forgiveness with my mother and some of the things that I grew up and I found myself doing when I became an adult and got into relationships. And it all rooted back to what I saw as a child. And not to give too much away from the book, but just talking about those dysfunctional things, right? Like, being that woman that's supposed to be there for the guy through thick and thin, even if that guy is really not your guy, even if he's married, even if he's not treating you the way that he's supposed to treat you, just dysfunctional things, what stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in the house, things like that, dysfunctional things that we grew up, just saying, just really as Black women, you know um you get what I'm saying?
I
Like,
do
yeah,
understand. I grew
yeah,
up in that same vein. What goes on in this house stays in this house, but that kind of perpetuates the dysfunction over and
yes,
over, generation by generation. That dysfunction is kind of perpetuated. Did
yes.
you let your mom read the chapter?
So my mom passed away. We lost her to cancer back in 1999. So
I'm sorry to
I
hear
was
that.
like, yeah, I was a sophomore in college. And after her passing, I actually did not return to school during that time. But for me, my journey was really different because I had to go through my process of healing after my mother had passed away. Because, see, a lot of the dysfunction and habits and patterns and things like that that I picked up from childhood, it didn't manifest until I became an adult. So, when my mom passed away, I really wasn't in adult relationships. Like, I had a boyfriend, but once I became a woman and I started experiencing certain things and accepting certain things, right? Those self esteem issues, with men, and dealing with men that really didn't value me or love me the way I should or accept in second place, right? I didn't get to experience that. So as I went through my journey and I started to dig deep and try to figure out like where is this coming from, it rooted back to childhood and my mom. So I had to go through my journey after my mom had already passed away. I had to forgive her for some of the things that, she allowed me to see and allowed me to think was okay.
Yeah. Um, is this your first anthology, or have you been in one before?
No, this is actually my third anthology. Um, yeah, this is my third anthology. The first one was Speak to the Mountains, and that spoke to the mountain of family. It was more biblical in regards to the church and some things, that goes all the way back to, Adam and Eve. I did that. And then I actually, the same time this book is coming out, Propel just came out too, and that's more so on the business side because I am an entrepreneur as well. I've been in business for about 15 years, so I do speak about some of the storms and things that I overcame in entrepreneurship. So this
So
is my third anthology.
when you agreed to do this one, um what were you expecting to give, and what were you expecting to get?
So for me, I like seeing people free. I want to see people free. And if I know that I went through something and I overcame something and I'm looking at my sisters and I'm seeing them and what used to keep me bound, right? That's what I want. I want the readers to read this story and actually be able to look within themselves and start forgiving and to get out of those dysfunctional relationships. And I'm not even talking about marriage. We're talking about, being with a man, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, and he hasn't committed. or being with a man that's committed to someone else, right? He's married on paper, but you're with him. Like, it's a lot of things. We talk about like adultery, we talk about all these things, and we tend to put so much on the men, not realizing some of that stuff is coming from us. It's coming from our mothers. It's coming with the things that we're accepting. Everything isn't always on the men. Sometimes it's things that we're bringing in as women and baggage that we're carrying that's keeping us from true love, from healing, from, getting what we deserve.
And what was your process? Did you experience any breakthroughs or any type of healings in the writing of this chapter?
Yeah, because I was really, for a long time, I was bitter, and I was upset. I was upset at my mom, right? And not in a bad way where it was just like a hate or anything, but it was more so like, why did you allow me to think this was okay, mom?
Hmm.
And now she's gone, and I'm going through these situations, and I'm going through, abusive relationships and things like that. And, I didn't know any better because this is what I saw my mom accept. So it was really hard, because I would have loved to be able to sit down with my mom and have the conversation like woman to woman, trying to figure out why she accepted certain things, because my mom was beautiful. She was a beautiful mother. But, some of the things that she accepted,
As a
some,
woman, not as a
yes,
mother, but
as
as
a
a
woman,
woman. Yeah,
as
yeah.
not a mom, but as a woman. And I understand, like, us as women, sometimes we deal with things because we say, "Oh, my child." But what about you as a woman?
Hmm.
She deserves so much better. So I wish I would have been able to have that conversation with her, to kind of get through some mess and get through some things, you know. But I didn't. So I that was a process in itself. As I wrote, I put my heart on these papers. I put my heart on it, and I know, even though my mom's not here, I know that she knows that I forgive her, and I've come to an understanding and a peace in regards to why, you know, I think I have a peace and understanding as to why she did certain things. Not saying that it was acceptable, but she deserves so much better.
Hmm.
She
Yeah.
deserves so much better.
I
And it
like when
helped
you
me too.
I,
Yeah.
I like when you said in your chapter, just as my mom have a choice, I have one too, and so do you. I really like that because
Yeah.
so many times we feel like the situations that we are in were put upon us, right? And
Yeah.
that we can't get out. We can't do something different. And you're clearly saying that, oh yeah, you can. You do have a choice. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, you definitely do have a choice. And not saying that situations and relationships and things like that are going to be perfect. It's all, everybody has something. It's not about perfection, but it's just about you having the ability and control to say, this is what I'm going to accept, this is what I'm not going to accept, and having a clear understanding of what's functional and what's not. Because, if you don't have that marriage, right? Um, with the husband and the wife, like the Huxtable, you don't have that. That's what we saw on TV, but most of us didn't have that. So sometimes when you don't have that example, it is hard to really understand what true love is when, growing up, you and your siblings have different dads, or what I'm saying. This is us, not just my situation, but having multiple fathers, but no commitment, and going through the same cycle. I'm with him, it doesn't work out. I separate him, and now I got to put him on child support and go through all this stuff. Then I go to relationship number two, and it's the same thing. It's good. I get pregnant, but still there's no commitment. And now that didn't work out. Now I'm on dealing with guy number two, where I got to go to court and go through all this, and the kids got to experience, and it's like in the midst of this, the kids are looking just as I was a child. And I'm like, you know, all right, that's my brother, that's my sister too. Oh, that's their mom. Oh, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a lot for a child to take in, and then you think it's okay. So when you grow up and you get into relationships and you see men, and not saying, because there are some men that have children and they get in relationships and they commit and they're good fathers, but then you have some where it's not,
Yeah.
you know, you
Yeah.
have some where it's not, and it's just like, it's not good. It's definitely not good for the kids, and then you think it's acceptable and it's okay. So now when you have a guy coming at you, you know, and he has a previous child, it doesn't ring ding dong red flag with certain things, because that's your norm. That
Right.
was your norm growing up. So
Right.
you
Because you're
don't know.
loyal. Because you're loyal to dysfunction. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know normal. I don't know the normal guy with no kids, other than my husband. Right? But my husband, he didn't have children before. But, for me, prior to my husband, like, I didn't understand that. So
Hmm.
when, I had a guy come to me and he had a girlfriend, or, not a girlfriend, but he had someone, a previous child with someone, and then a second previous child with someone else, it wasn't a red flag to me, because that was my normal growing up. It's 19 of us from my dad with various women. It's 19. I have 19 brothers. It's 19
Oh,
of
wow.
us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So what message would you want your readers to walk away with from your chapter?
I want them to understand that they deserve normal. You don't have to live a life of dysfunction. And you can have that, but you have to forgive. Like, that's the thing, you have to forgive. It's not for the person, it's not for your mom, it's not for your dad, it's not for your kids, it's for you. It is for you. You need to learn how to forgive. And not saying that what happened and what you dealt with or anything like that was acceptable and it was right. No, but you have to forgive, because there's a quote out there where it's like, unforgiveness is like, you know, giving you drinking poison and thinking of and expecting the other person to die.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's hurting you. And I know for me and my journey, I couldn't heal and go forward in other areas of my life until I was able to deal with that.
Hmm. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Williams Bay, for spending your afternoon with me. I know we had some scheduling things to get through. I'm glad we were able to go ahead and get the schedule settled and get this interview done. I really
Yes.
appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time, and I really enjoyed your story. That's
Thank you
all.
so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's all we have for today, guys. And so we will be coming back on with the other authors as soon as we can work out the schedule with them. But thank you so much, Mrs. Williams Bay, and we will talk to you later.
All right. Thank you.